All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Barnes.
Here.
Craig here.
Schneider here.
Dolphin here.
Coming here.
All right, recognize all board members are present. I do have in front of me verification of proper meeting notices being posted. Brings us up to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? All right, hearing none, I look for a motion.
Craig will move to approve as presented.
All right, got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Mr. Yurgis to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Brings us to the action of the minutes from the regular meeting from December 10th. Are there any changes or noted corrections on said meeting minutes?
I will move to approve the open session meeting minutes on December 10th.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Dolphin, seconded by Mr. Crave to approve the minutes from the regular meeting from December 10th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Brings us to the minutes from the regular meeting on December 10th in the closed session. Any noted changes or corrections here?
I will move for approval.
Cummings will second.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Ms. Cummings, to approve the meeting minutes of December 10th in the closed session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. That brings us to the board report. I believe we have Ms. Olivia Otte here to give us a report, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Our second term is ending, which will be next Friday, so we'll have a lot of finals, projects, and other assessments. And then our third term will start on the 26th, which will be on Monday. Last week, I believe it was Thursday, AP Biology took a field trip to the Biopharmaceutical Technology Center Institute, which is located in Madison, and they were able to do a whole bunch of labs throughout the day and have a big learning chance. And there is a field trip tomorrow to the Auburn Ridge, where this is for Introduction to Technology, which is Mr. Topin's class. So they'll be taking a field trip to Auburn Ridge with Scott Carr to learn more about careers at Auburn Ridge and present what they developed in class and the team at Auburn Ridge. This has been a great opportunity for our students to work on career and life writing skills with a local business. And our ACT will be coming up soon on Tuesday, March 17th. On Monday, there's an in-service day, which is January 19th, where students can come in, and Ms. Burns is offering a full-length ACT practice test reserved for seniors specifically. And lastly, for sports, our boys basketball team currently is 2-8. For wrestling last week, boys and girls, we traveled to Marshall. The girls went in a round robin, getting between 1 and 3 matches, and the guys competed for conference championships, winning for their second year in a row. And Brady Ebert and Avery Skowski also joined the 100 Wins Club, which is a very big thing in wrestling, so they get a big banner with their name and pictures on it. And then next week, Tuesday on the 20th, there's our only home duel against Jefferson, so if you're free, definitely come check it out. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you for that very comprehensive report. All right, we will move right along to get into administrative reports. Ms. Armentrout, you have the floor to talk about open enrollment seat availability.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. I will present my screen for you to share my recommendations for next year's open enrollment. just to remind the board about our process and how this is determined, or how I make my recommendations each year. So I review the special education related service provider's current caseload and look at the projected enrollment to determine the workload. If a teacher or related service provider's projected workload is above what I would hope that the board would recommend for workloads, then no space will be available to provide the type of special education or related services for the next year. And so again, just to remind the board, when we talk about space, or the definition of space, I'm referring to the district's capacity to meet the needs of students with IEPs. Available space really can't be determined by a set number of special education seats or students. And that is because we're looking at, in total, what it entails to provide the services to support our students that receive special education. And so that's really divided into two buckets: direct services, where the special ed teacher or related service provider is working directly with the student to provide the specially designed instruction, accommodations, and services. And then also the indirect services, which is what the special education teacher is working on behalf of the student. So that would include writing IEPs, running IEP meetings, the instructional design, that family engagement, evaluations, observations, coaching our support staff, and then connecting with outside agencies, progress monitoring, documentation, etc. Again, I really like to ground us in the difference between caseload and workload. So caseload is going to be the number of students with IEPs that are assigned to that special education teacher. The workload really encapsulates all of the responsibilities that are required of that special education teacher and is based on the intensity of the student needs. Again, DPI gives us really no guidance or recommendation on caseload numbers, but they do recommend considerations around workload regarding the amount of service, how many minutes per week, the intensity of the pupil needs, and then the types of staff that are needed to address those needs, including speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, paraprofessionals, and our PT staff as well, physical therapy staff. So again, I use some information regarding the importance of thinking about it from a workload standpoint to determine caseload. Really using a student needs approach to caseload is really most advantageous. It's finding that balance between the intensity of a student needs and what those responsibilities by that teacher are needed. Making sure our workloads are reasonable, make sure that we can guarantee that free, appropriate public education. It also really helps us when we're considering retaining the amazing special ed staff that we currently have. So how is workload determined? So I use 4 pieces when I'm determining the workload. The first is a service matrix analysis that I go through for each and every student in special education. Then we look at the direct service minutes in the IEP. I take into account projected enrollment for each of the building levels. And then we look at the average level of need at each building level per staff. And that's divided into 4 categories: minimal, moderate, extensive, and comprehensive. So first is the service matrix. This is an example of the service matrix, and this analysis is done for each student so that you can see it's divided into some different categories that help us determine the level of need. Each of those then is added up to give that matrix score. Next, we put all of the students into the outcomes. So we look at all of our students at each level, This is included in your handouts on, I believe it's around page 47, so that you can see the outcome for next year's caseload and how those are categorized. The next thing I look at is the projected enrollment. And so that's based on the current students that we have in our special education programming now. And then I look at the last 4 years for the historical data in terms of how many students receive those initial evaluations and then qualify for special education. I also take into account the referrals that are currently in progress, and then the students that are on the radar from our student collaborative team meetings or PLCs. So just to show you that historical data, you can see over the last 4 years at each level how many students qualified for special education. And then I average that to get an adequate ballpark of what we would expect to add to the caseloads for next year. So here are the final recommendations for the coming school year 26-27. Please note that in your board packet, there was a math error that I corrected on these slides, so I will get you those updated slides. So there's 2 columns, just have some slight corrections. I failed to take into account the number of current staff. So what you see there is the FTE for each of the levels, their current number of students, which would be the caseload number, then the current workload, and then the projected workload for next year to give us the total projected workload for 26-27. And then my recommendation for the workload max, which then shows us that I would recommend that the board state that there is no capacity for open enrolled students that require special education services. Below that, you'll see our related services, speech and language, OT and PT. And that one, I did not do workload, I just did strictly caseload numbers. So you can see our current caseload, what the caseload is projected to be for next year, the recommended maximums, and again, at this time, we have no space. The last reminder I want to give the board is that even if the board would vote that we have no special education space for 26-27, the district is still required to review each and every open enrollment application if a student has an IEP. So whether or not we vote that we have space now or not, we take a look at each open enrolled request to see if things have changed and if we do indeed have the ability to serve that student. Any questions regarding next year's recommendations regarding seats for special education?
Yeah, I have one question. On that projected enrollment historical data on initial referrals, where it says speech and language only, 24 and 25, it was 15, and then current year so far is 1. So for there, when you said average number of students added per year, so you're saying we're gonna add 11 more kids onto speech and language only by the end of this year and into next, or how is that working?
Great question, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm glad this particular slide that I have up, you'll note that in your board packet, I did have one and that was incorrect. Our current evals right now in speech and language would be 4. I did not take that current year so far into account when I created the average. So if you look at the last 4 years, even just the last 2 years, in the last 2 years we've had a really big influx of speech and language referrals that have qualified. So those, the historical data on initial referrals are the initial referrals we received that qualify for speech and language. So in the last 2 years, we've added actually 15 students to our speech and language caseloads.
Okay. So then the average number of students added per year, it's really, you're not saying these are added, like seats available for open, you're saying there are no seats available.
I'm saying, yeah, if we go with my recommendation of basically around 40 per SLP, that takes into account the amount of time that that our SLPs are in evaluation. Our SLPs are in a unique situation, you know, they're divided between, you know, one of our SLPs focuses on our younger students. We have a lot of initials at that level. They also, that particular SLP also travels to our parochial school to serve students there. And then our second SLP is serving students from grades 2 through 12, so that's quite a range of lesson planning when you're thinking about meeting the needs of that amount of students. And then the other piece regarding speech and language pathologists is they really do spend a lot of time with our multi-level systems of support, going into classrooms, especially in those earlier grades, our play groups, our 4K, 5K, and just really helping our teachers, you know, benefit all students with different strategies. Same with our OT. Our OT spends a lot of time doing that as well in 4K and 5K.
Okay.
So that's part of why I make those recommendations on those caps.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, great question. Any other questions that I can help answer?
There doesn't appear to be any right now, Michele, so thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Great job, Michele. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into the approval of bills and vouchers. You have the 3 reports included in your packets, treasurer's report, listing of disbursements through December 31st, and the receipts through the month of December. If there are any questions that remain to be answered in regards to any of the financial reports.
I read them rather thoroughly, doing my best to keep income and expenses and pass-throughs, et cetera, clear. So I will move for approval on all 3 items.
I will second that one.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Craig, seconded by Mr. Dolphin, to approve the treasurer's reports, the superintendent listing of disbursements through December 31st, and the district receipts for the month of December. And that is a roll call vote. Aries, yes.
Craig, yes.
Schneider's a yes.
Dolphin, yes.
Cummings, yes.
Mommy, yes.
All right. That passes on a 7-0 vote. Any announcements this evening?
Matt, there was one thank you card there from a teacher that
Okay. Yes, we do have a very nice thank you card for Mr. Campbell. I'll pass it around to board members, but it's a thank you card acknowledging the sabbatical that our district provides as a benefit for teachers, and he explains how he's utilized it, and he is very thankful for that sabbatical. So go ahead and take a look and pass it around. Any other announcements? All right, as you look at that, I will go to public input. Is there anyone who wishes to provide public input this evening? All right, we'll get into new business. Action item A. The staff positions. We have one staff position here put up for improvement, and it's noted there are 3 open positions. That being the JV baseball position, head varsity football, and head varsity volleyball positions are all open for the 2026 season. Any questions in regards to staff positions or discussions this evening?
I'll move to approve the staff positions as presented.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mrs. Kwame, seconded by Mr. Yurgis to approve the staff positions as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote.
I do have one question with that. Are we gonna come back once we have the, like a coach for JV and approve who they will be for these positions, or because we're approving the positions, we're voting that?
No, we will bring them once we have those candidates,
Okay.
for those positions. I think football interviews are on Monday, and I think, the other two are at the beginning of the timeline, but hopefully will be soon also.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go to action item B, the seat limits for open enrolled students. We did just hear a very comprehensive report from Ms. Armentrout. Are there any questions out of the limits that are recommended, that were presented and recommended for approval?
Cummings will make that motion to approve the seat limits for the open enrolled students.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion on the floor by Ms. Cummings, seconded by Ms. Kwame to approve the recommended seat limits as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the 7. Brings us to action item C, the 2026 resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed the revenue limit by $590,000 for reoccurring purposes. This is, I guess, the first step in moving forward here on the referendum as voted on in the past meeting. Any discussions regarding said action?
Yeah, so C is the actual authorization to exceed the revenue limit, and then D, that looks, you can tell it looks really close to the one in C, but that one's for the election for the referendum. So you'll have those two items in front of you tonight. There is a handout that was added to your board packet, should have been in front of you tonight. That kind of goes through all the do's and don'ts for referendums and some more information regarding those, if you want to look through that at your leisure. And then I think either Matt or Sarah has in front of them a stack of stuff that we would need signed, should you approve those motions tonight.
I didn't see the do's and don'ts from the.
It was at the.
It's more just kind of information, maybe do's and don'ts isn't the correct term.
I don't have it.
Correspondence
And
from
my
January
packet
12th?
is.
We've had mine.
For this, February meeting.
Oh, that's not here yet.
Oh,
Yep, here it is.
thank you.
So any discussion in regards to the resolution? I guess it was hashed out in the past meeting as we voted to move forward, so if there's nothing new, I'd look for a motion.
I will move to approve the 2026 resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed the revenue limit by $590,000 for recurring purposes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Dolphin, seconded by Mr. Fari, to approve the 2026 resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed the revenue limit by $590,000 for reoccurring purposes. Let's take that to a roll call vote. Or yes.
Years, yes.
Crave, yes.
Schneider, yes.
Dolphin, yes.
Cummings, yes.
Yes.
That passes on a 7-0 vote. Brings us to action item D that Mr. Henning had spoke on, again, very similar, but the action item is the 2026 resolution providing for the referendum election, again, of the same limits that we just approved to be set. Any questions, discussion here?
I will move for approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Crave, seconded by Mr. Yurgis, to approve the 2026 resolution providing for a referendum election with the limits previously approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Brings us to action item E, the rock wall. I believe this has been discussed a number of times. It's been approved a number of times as it's stated in our former packet. It's been in the budget a number of years and approved, but recent discussions were brought to light. This is a sizable expenditure, and the recommendation brought forward in the packet is that we hold off on the construction of this rock wall until the referendum in April, and decide if we want to move forward here. Is there any discussion in regards to the rock wall?
Yeah, there was really nothing different than what we talked about last month at our meeting with the rock wall. Just that after the survey went out and after you talked about it last month, I had a number of people that came in and wanted to talk about the rock wall and just expressed their concern over that expenditure, and asked that the board carefully consider that and probably even wait, and make sure that our finances are in order before we move forward with any kind of project like that. So, you're never gonna get 100% agreement on whether you should or shouldn't do it. So I think you're still okay to do, either one, but there's definitely sentiment out there that this is not a project that we should be doing. And just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Was there any funds allocated for the rock wall, like were we getting any grants or anything to go towards that, or no?
Well, remember we have that $10,000 donation for that, so, it's only covers a small portion of that, but it is a donation for the rock wall specifically. So we have a little bit of money, but otherwise, it would be, general fund expenditures.
I definitely think we should postpone it. That's my recommendation.
You want to table?
I would love to table it, yeah.
Well,
Or
I think
take
you'd
it
like to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to postpone the build of the rock wall until after the referendum.
All right, so I've got a motion on the floor by Ms. Cummings, seconded by Mr. Fari, to postpone construction of said rock wall until after the determination of the referendum is completed. Is that fair, what I stated?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Brings us up to discussion/action item of the community survey results. It's noted in the packet here that we have the full results of the community survey that was conducted in regards to the referendum. We've been advised legally that there are some things that may need to be redacted off of those if the board chooses to release them. And there's some additional discussion points or questions here for board discussion on what exactly, if we move to release said survey results, what we plan to do with them, how that information will be handled, etc. Anyone want to start the discussion or has questions in regards to the community survey results. Or a question maybe on exactly what are the community survey results. If you recall, in the last meeting, the board agreed, I believe unanimously, to receive the results that were the results, rather the presentation specifically that was provided from our consultant, and I believe everyone received that, a copy of that. So the full up survey data would be all of the comments, et cetera, that was sent in from all people who had responded.
Yeah, and I was the person who emailed about that to get the full survey results, and I think it's important that if the community took the time to put down exactly what they were expressing, because it was so generalized, it was bundled all together, and it can be 10 different things when it comes to the board or administration or what, and so I heard from quite a few people if we were going to be able to see that the full results of the community survey. So that's why I asked and requested it, that it show that. Because if we don't take the survey and what the community has stated in there seriously, I fear that the referendum won't pass, because it will be viewed that we are not taking their comments seriously. If they took the time to notate it and write stuff, we need to be able to view that and see what those results actually look like.
Okay, other discussion or points of view?
Well, I appreciate the point of view, I just as soon not delve in. I think we hear from administration, we hear from teachers, we hear from all our administration tonight, we hear from students, and to further hear from the community that can express themselves in an anonymous manner does not necessarily give us.
I'm not looking at getting who wrote them. I don't care who did the survey. I don't care the community member name. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is more of the information that was provided, instead of it being bundled together into one and have a very generic outline. I want detail on why they felt that way, to say there needs to be this change or this change or this change or this change. It could be a lot of different things, and it could be my perception could be different than your perception, and we could be missing the boat on what the community is actually looking for. And if we're not willing to take that extra step and look at this as serious as it is, again, it's going to go back to number of votes on the referendum. I mean, we were so close last time. I fear if we don't take this seriously and we went ahead and put comments in there, then we gotta listen to those comments. Unfortunately, even if we don't want to, we have to. So, I don't care who said it. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not even looking for who it was about. I just want to know the information that was said, like what changes they want to see. And if we ask for comments, then we need to be able to be willing to receive them in full. So,
And let's clarify, if we release the full data of the survey, it does not contain information as to who filled it out, or we didn't collect that information, correct?
Correct, it's anonymous
It's
data.
anonymous.
You wouldn't be able to find out who it was anyway.
right.
Well, I think you both make a good point. Again, sitting here as a board member, we're up here elected by constituents, and we're always have to be open to hear what people have to say. That's just a requirement of the job. But I would tend to agree with Mr. Crave on the fact that when it's anonymous, yeah, if you look down there, I believe there was a statistic about how many were in the community, how many were not. I guess I'm less interested in finding out people outside of the community think versus what those who are in the community would certainly bear more weight. So that's where I stand on it. I again, the data is the data, and yeah, we got to be able to read it.
And we paid for it, right? Like, we paid a lot of money for these surveys to go out. So I feel like we should get all the information from them as much as possible, so we are prepared as much as possible for this referendum. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Sarah. I think, you shouldn't necessarily ask the community for something that you're not, willing to look at and review. I do think, in the past, this very same board has had these same discussions, and they've talked very thoroughly about, anonymous data and how you handle anonymous data, right? It's certainly something that you need to review and pay attention to, but it also is anonymous, and anybody can write anything in those circumstances. And once it's in our hands, then it also becomes a public record. And are you going to post it on the website? We've done that in the past for everybody to look at. I'm sure the newspaper will want a copy of it as well. So there's a lot of responsibility with that data, and you should just make sure that you've given us the exact instructions for that going forward. And if there's any kind of things you want to address the public on, before that data goes out, then you have the chance to do that now. Once it's out, it's out.
I think that's an important point though, right? It's data from the community, it's not data from the district. So if we were to share it in a broad way, it comes not specifically from any member of this board or administration, it's members of the community and their feedback. We can take no authority over other people's comments except to acknowledge them. And so I struggle to see the harm in releasing the information because it's not information we created, it's just information we're reviewing.
Yeah, you do, as we indicated in the board informer, we did contact legal counsel, so you do have some obligations to protect individual employees that might be identified in there. Probably not a lot of protection, but there's some, and definitely would want to have legal counsel review that before you just post that out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, and that completely makes sense. I mean, if we take those steps, but again, it's not our information or our data that we created. It came from members of the community. So I
gave them a platform to.
I struggle to see how that specific data reflects on us, except if there are things that we should be taking action on and we fail to. But if we don't see the information, we don't have access to know what that is.
Other thoughts? Okay, well, would someone like to put something in the form of a motion for action?
I would move that we see the entire full report with comments included, and we use our legal counsel to appropriately distribute that information.
Would you want to post it on the website under the referendum tab?
Is that what we've done in the past, right?
We've done it both ways.
It seems appropriate.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cummings will second that motion with that added piece into it.
Okay, got a motion on the floor by Ms. Kwame, seconded by Ms. Cummings. And help me if I say it incorrectly, but the motion is to release the full data set from the survey results from the referendum after they're then reviewed through legal counsel, and then they will be posted under the referendum tab on the website.
Agreed with that.
Okay, any further discussion? Take it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, that motion will pass on a 5-2 vote.
My reason, I'm tired of paying attorneys.
Charlie, it ain't
Understandable,
gonna
Charlie.
stop, so it's not a good reason, Charlie. That is a reason.
All right, moving along. The school board election update. The deadline is passed. Lapsed on January 6th. We currently have 5 candidates to fill 2 positions.
And we don't have to go to a primary?
Due to the number of candidates, we do not have to have a primary. This will just appear on the vote. 4 candidates in area 3 and 1 in area 1. So, Mr. Yergis, I'm assuming you're gonna win that one. Okay. Any other discussion in regards to the election update? All right, moving right along, discussion, the WASB resolutions for the 2026 Education Convention. Mr. Craig would be eagerly awaiting your input on all the resolutions that will be voted on. You have a copy within your board informer packet. There's quite a bit of data here. Anyone would like to, by all means, lead a discussion or tell Mr. Craig your thoughts so he can vote correctly on behalf of the board?
Charlie, there was one that I was really interested in. It had to do with funding related to addiction and treatment. And we've had conversation at different times related to expulsion and that topic exactly. So I would be fully in favor of finding a way to support funding for those initiatives.
All right,
I think it's on page 11 of the delegate assembly packet.
you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of the board feel that way as well?
Yeah, I would support that thought.
All right. Fair enough. The big topic is support decoupling of public and private school funding and oppose decoupling of public and school funding. Pages 19, 20, 21, and 22. And 3. I read this a couple of times at home. And I read it this afternoon once more. Still not an easy decision. Basically, we are saying, well, our taxpayer monies, will our association continue to procure funding? Rationale provided by Kettle Moraine, page 19. Under current Wisconsin law, when a student leaves a public school district to enroll in a private voucher specialty scholarship, the independent charter school, the state reduces the district's equalization aid by the amount of the voucher. So the change would preserve the integrity of Wisconsin school finance system, protects taxpayers, ensure that public funds remain accountable to the public. That's the main reason for Kettle Moraine's proposing this. And the resolutions committee could not come to, so the WASB resolutions committee could not come to recommending one way or the other. So that's why they have either supporting or opposing.
So it's just WASB's recommendation to the legislature, essentially, right?
Yeah.
That's how they'll spend their lobbying dollars,
Yes.
either before or against decoupling of that funding.
a recommendation or a thought on it?
Well, it came up, one school district is proposing for it, and another school district is proposing against it. So which side does the WASB want to be on when it goes to the legislature and they start doing their legislating?
And Charlie will serve as our delegate on this vote
Yes.
for what happens.
So what's the current status of the law? Does what, basically, if you have a charter school in your area, it takes money away from the local school district, and gives at least a portion of it to the charter school, right? And what they're saying is, the state of Wisconsin should fund all of that, so that all of the money can stay with the local district. The downside to that is it means that basically that cost has then been deferred to not just that district in the state, which is obviously receiving the benefit, those are kids that they don't have to educate anymore. And then it shifts that burden to the rest of the state. So our taxpayers will wind up paying for that indirectly. Under the new proposal, if the law were to be changed.
All right. Brian, can you shed any more light than?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that everybody's been debating for a number of years now, right? Should public dollars be used to pay for private schools? Everybody has a different opinion on that.
So if we vote number 10, that means we want to keep our dollars in the public schools. Is that correct? And if we vote for number 11, we continue as is.
Yeah, the way I read it, I was for number 10, for decoupling.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
I'd be 11.
Okay.
I'd say 10.
I think I'd be 11.
Don't look at me, I don't know yet.
With the little bit of research that I did on it, it seemed like the district would be getting more money with number 10.
Yeah.
By about $70,000 a year.
11 allows for families to make decisions around their education and have some funding to support that if they choose.
Instead of it being the other way around.
In 10,
Yeah.
they would not receive any
Right.
additional support if they chose a private education.
Is it a fair assessment to say, again, we're talking about lobbying dollars, so nothing's gonna
Right.
happen. So
Correct.
you could be couple or couple, and then the state can change the rules and how they're gonna fund this.
The truth is, I'd be shocked if
Really?
any legislator were swayed by what the WASB thought about any of this stuff, but
Oh,
I'm sure my constituents thought.
all right, so we had, what was the tally? 10. Wait, 11, 10? 10.
10.
10, 11, 10. I guess we're going to the 10.
Yeah, so the majority is 10.
Alright. You know, what I really didn't understand is where it starts out here, Charlie, and maybe you can explain it to me, but so this, the first proposal, right, is having limited active members who would not vote on certain things and but would still pay the same fee. I didn't understand the logic in why you'd be a limited participant.
What page are you on?
It's the first
Yeah,
one.
Charlie and I talked about that
Yeah.
today. So when you join the WASB, when you're a member of a school district, which all of the schools in the state of Wisconsin are, every once in a while somebody protests and doesn't join, but for the most part, everybody joins. So my opinion is, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but the Waterloo School District joins the WASB 99.9%, so they can attend the professional development events and the conferences and the convention in Milwaukee and have access to resources to help make your school a better place. But what you also get when you pay for the membership is their lobbying efforts for public schools. And that's sort of you get that whether you like it or you don't. People aren't necessarily fond of that, so some people, want to have access to join WASB but not be a part of the lobbying efforts. So if they created 2 forms of membership, you could, in a sense, participate in one and in theory say you're not participating in the other.
Thanks for the explanation. Any other discussion in regards to the convention items?
This is a little off the subject, but when's that legal convention that was is it in February this year? Has anyone received any
I know a
information?
mailer went out.
Yeah, mailer did go out, so.
Yeah, it's usually in February.
I saw it in my inbox today, but I think it's been there for a week.
Missed it. Cool. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the WASB resolutions for 2026?
I will come back with an exciting report for all of you on the resolutions committee.
Thank you, Charlie.
Perfect, that's what we expect. All right, last discussion / action item is administrative contracts. January is the month of the administrator contract should be reviewed by the school board, and obviously we have a closed session that we will break into for that. Any action discussion at this time in regards to the administrative contracts? All right, hearing none, I will make the motion to move into a closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 parent 1, parent C, for the items listed in our agenda. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'm going with Kwame, she was first up to draw, and that is a roll call vote.
Or yes.
Here, yes.
Crave, yes.
Schneider, yes.
Dolphin, yes.
Cummings, yes?
Bonnie, yes.
All right, that'll pass on a 7-0 vote. It is 7:23. We'll take a 10-minute recess here while they tear the room down. Thank you all.